these glorious things. Like we said, our legacy is too humongous to hold in 1 month. So what a great way to lift up and pay respect to our ancestors by doing this book club. And we are in the last week. So we just want to say for us right now, we want to say a prayer for us right now who are here. We constantly think about our ancestors and, the ones we will leave behind to carry on the work, our seeds. But let's take a moment to acknowledge ourselves and
the middleman, middle woman, middle king, middle queen. Rejuvenate us, Most High. Be with us, guide our steps. Subdue our own ego and fill us with your righteousness, your divinity, your divine way of movement and understanding. Let us be reflections of you, Most High, and do the work that you wish to do. We're here, and we're ready. We've been ready. Just make sure that we're able to love. Lend us all that we need to continue this work. All these things we say today here. I say, amen. I'm Uncle Johnson. So, brother.
Bro, beautiful grounding. How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm well, bro. It's been an interesting year. Just different waves of energy. So I feel like right now I'm surfing on the waves right now, but
That's beautiful. Yeah.
How you feeling, bro?
What were you saying?
I said, how you feeling?
The wave analogy is super like resonant for me. Like I feel that way like many times. To continue with that, I feel like I had to go to the shore and like take some water.
That's beautiful. And then you came back with the bamboo village. That's what's up. I was so excited. I'm glad you shared that with me today. Family,
Yeah.
well, found the village in Ghana.
And I started following them because when we went to Ghana last year, several of the people like went over and did like a bonfire and cookout with them, right?
Oh, that was them.
Yeah.
Damn.
So it looks like they're for sale, but maybe we can do something about that.
Man, I'm putting it out there. That'll be beautiful.
hmm Yeah. Where are we on today? Like page 217?
Yeah.
Talking about solidarity in the late 20th century Black cooperative.
Solidarity, that word. I thought it was a
Has some like really good nuggets about history like that I guess I just kind of like breezed through this last time I read, but it's wild. Should we just jump in?
man, kick it off, man, because like you said, it's a lot of nuggets. We have to break some of these nuggets down when we get to them, man.
Yeah. All right, so page 217, chapter 10 of Collective Courage, we're reading that solidarity and cultural racial loyalty have been important motivators for cooperative development among African Americans, especially in the 20th century. We saw in the Universal Negro Improvement Association's economic projects and those of the Ladies Auxiliary to the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. That was earlier in the book. According to John Curl, the Poor People's Corporation, organized in 1965 by a former SNCC field worker in Jackson, Mississippi, provides another example. Within 4 years, the PPC was running 13 producer cooperatives, a marketing cooperative, producing sewing, leather, and wood crafts and candles. And they had more than 800 members, mostly former sharecroppers.
And see, the Poor People's Campaign was kind of assisted by Dr. King. And Dr. King didn't get assassinated till 1967. So that leads me to believe that Dr. King was working with the Poor People's Corporation, and he was talking about cooperative economics, family. He was
Right.
talking about getting the bag.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we had read, what was it? Um, Shoot, sorry, I was reading a message about being low. Can you hear me, Tut? Is it too low?
Yeah, now you have scooting up help for sure.
All right, for sure. Uh, all right, let's keep going. So in 1964 through 65, black voter registration drives and the Selma to Montgomery March for Freedom contributed to the formation of the Southwest Alabama Farmers Cooperative Association, discussed in Chapter 9. It was instrumental in the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. Oh, and to add to your point, the same organization MLK was a part of, the Southern Christian Leadership Council, I think it was called.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
helped found the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, so he definitely knew what was going on.
What we don't hear about? They didn't talk about this in Selma. We didn't see this part. They showed the
Right.
beatings and but we didn't see this part. Why, family? Let's
Yeah.
continue.
It's all here in the book, though.
Black Printing strikes again. Doo, doo, doo.
So within a few years, the Poor People's Corporation included 1,800 families, making it I'm sorry, this is the Southwest Alabama Farmers Cooperative Association. Within a few years, they had 1,800 families, making it the largest agricultural cooperative in the South. Originally, there were 8 families who were white also involved, but harassment from racist politicians and businessmen followed. Banks and suppliers refused to deal with the Southwest Alabama Farmers Cooperative Association until the whites withdrew, and that's crazy.
Mm,
Wow.
mm.
Uh,
There we
uh,
go, man. Gotta lift up the next paragraph, man. Ancestor who was elder who ascended to ancestry just recently,
Not long ago.
man.
And I was super excited, like, given that, like, to unearth this history about John Lewis, a former head of SNCC, a U.S. congressman for Georgia for like decades. Um, he did early work within the Southern Regional Council's Community Organizing Project, which began in the late 1960s and reflected the sense of solidarity behind Black cooperative development. So Lewis became the director of the Community Organizing Project in October of 67. He explained that the project's main focus was to establish cooperatives, credit unions, and community development groups throughout the Deep South. Wow.
That's deep, man. That's funny, man. Because the first time I ever even heard about John Lewis, I met him, and like people were like, they said, "Oh man, it's John Lewis." I was at this rally because I was a worker, I was a striking worker, and I was like, okay. But then when he got up there and he spoke, bro, and what? I'm like, okay, it's like this is King all over again. Then he came down and he talked to us, and I'm able to draw the connection. Like he really was active in like workers' rights, even to this day. Like he was always at the fast food workers protests. He was always at the union rallies, just speaking on like the importance of like having control and fighting the good fight. Like he, even to this day, man, about decades later, man, John Lewis is still putting in that work for the people, man.
Sure. And can I give a shout out to Ella Baker, who like started off early on in her career at the Young Negro Cooperatives League and then helped co-found SNCC. And we've seen like 2 examples of former SNCC folks then getting into the cooperative movement. So it seems like Ella Baker was definitely like passing on that information and making sure folks knew that this was a viable pathway, which is, you know,
Man, and it's something that, as we've seen, like when they've stepped out of different arenas, but the cooperative lifestyle has been a lifelong push for all these giants that we look up to.
yeah, that's right. So on page 218 of Collective Courage, we're seeing that John Lewis described participating in intensive grassroots organizing to help people obtain food, shelter, and jobs. In these places, the civil rights movement was old news, with press coverage moving north to cover the Black Panthers, riots, campus unrest, and Vietnam War protests. People could vote, according to Lewis, but they did not have enough to eat. And so his job was about helping these people join together, he wrote, helping them help one another to fill those needs that they had. It was about showing people how to pool what money they had to form a bank of their own, a credit union, or how to band together to buy groceries or feed or seed in bulk amounts at low prices. How to farm cooperative. A quote from Baba Lewis. And wow, like he was dynamic. I had no clue about this aspect of his past.
Then, and 2 pages just breaks down whole decades of work
Mm.
and makes things clear. Like, wow, okay. We're on the right path, family.
Sure. So John Lewis discussed helping farmers' wives organize quilting cooperatives and using the money to buy a refrigerator, stove, or washing machine. He mentioned working with Charles Prejean, a director of the Southern Regional Council and the first ED of the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. So for Lewis, community organizing for community development was important training in direct organizing and finding collective solutions. Similarly, Fannie Lou Hamer found in the 1970s that working for voting rights was not enough.
Mm.
Whites used economic retaliation, and people needed to control their own food, housing, land, and work. She turned to cooperative economic development.
Nice.
Man. Bruh, I feel like it's appropriate for you to take this next paragraph.
Man, you can't deny the benefits, man. Can't deny the benefits doing this work. It's levels to it, right? That's what they say. So Carl summarizes activities by the Black Panthers in the late 1960s and early 1970s, right? The Intercommunalists, Black Panther Party, right? Begun in 1966 in Oakland, organized a host of survival programs pending political revolution. So they did a lot of programs pending, knew that this was going to turn upside down, knew that Corona, something was going to hit the economy, and it was unstable. The Black Panthers knew this, that the Americans' economy was weak, and it was just bound to crumble. So they wanted to create these programs. What did you say, bro?
The capitalist economy tends to eat itself every now and again to regenerate, and it like messes over a lot of people, like the depressions and the like all of the dips in the financial market. If you look at it, it's rhythmic. It happens every so often.
Has to. And they say what for the economy to restabilize itself. No, it's like a cancer. You know what I'm saying? It finds new hosts or new parts of the body to destroy till there's nothing left. And Panthers knew that, so they wanted to create programs pending the collapse. So these included distributing the free shoes. So we learned about this earlier in the reading that they had their own shoe company, which is dope. Shout out Authentic African from their own factory. Clothing, food, healthcare, Mandela, Raw Soul Collective, East Oakland Grocery Co-op, plumbing repair, family, pest control, and transportation for the aged, for the elderly. Good Juju, good vibes. We've been thinking about getting into that work, commuting our elders safely. So these are things that we can definitely pick back up and keep doing. So they also had communal houses that provided shelter for Black Panther Party workers. So we had our own living space. We worked with the movement. So we provided housing. Okanda, there you go. Still happening today.
Right, it's crazy because like if people had to like worry about getting kicked out of their jobs while like organizing with the Panthers or kicked out of their houses while organizing with the Panthers, that would like fall apart, similar to like how we're trying to like in some ways build movements, but people have to move to cheaper parts of the country. So it's like, bro, super forward looking for them to know that and to be like, nah, we got you. Like first get the housing. All right, let's do the business.
And it's interesting because we're so excited. We're so passionate about the fight and, down with Whitey. We really like leave out a lot of important information studying our history. And Jessica Gordon Nimhart, Lord bless her heart, that she was able to see that and compile this information and represent it to us. Because if not, we'd still just been, me and bro would have been bumping our heads like, bro, what's the answer? Because you doing this work, you can feel it. Yeah, down with the Black Lives, yeah, out there protesting. But then you go home and like bro said, lights finna get cut off. You got to go work at McDonald's in the morning for a few dollars. and we're not addressing key issues for survival, for life, for living, for thriving. And right now, we're looking at Black Panther Party, man, a part of the 10-point program. They were getting that work, getting that money. So that's what's up. The Panthers also provided, free breakfast programs, as we all know. And they had a bakery. I think the bakery's still around, isn't it? Somewhere in West Oakland? Or
Sure.
I think so, possibly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so we had the breakfast programs for the children they were feeding. And then according to Jamal Joseph, one of the New York Panther 21, in addition to self-defense, the Panthers' major objective was economic development and self-help in Black urban communities, which is dope. We know that, but we're able to see like what that looks like, how that manifested. Their free breakfast programs included collecting neighborhood food and financial donations and educating children about their African heritage and civil rights. Shout out Divine Learning, a new co-op that's forming right now that's going to, intercede this home school epidemic that we're going through, and want to teach our people, our children, our people, how to educate their children to their African heritage. So shout out Divine Learning. That's a co-op that's brewing, and child care services they plan on offering one day. But let's continue. Page 219, reading about the Black Panther Party. Their community organizing and economic programs included selling newspapers and joint ownership and collective businesses to provide employment and needed products. Brother, we met over the weekend. We met an elder. She was 90. She came to the flea market and she was like, "Yeah, I'm a Panther." She said, "I still got the book that we used to sell. It still got the one paper, and it was a bunch of quotes, a bunch of quotes. What is it? Not socialist, but communist quotes. The little red book."
Yeah.
And she was talking about like, yeah, man, everywhere she go, man, a bunch of white people always want to stop her and take pictures. But she's like, nah. She's like, nah, we didn't do that for that. I'm cool. She was like, she can't even tell people she was a Panther. White folks just, but yeah, man, it's just the heritage is here. We can reach out and touch it, family. We have people, remnants of this work, and we're here. This Oakland, California. So let's continue. With the newspaper, in addition, the Black Panthers in Oakland successfully. This is another part that I'm learning, and I very much so support. Oakland successfully used loan boycotts to pressure community businesses to invest in the community through the Panthers social projects. So they also used boycotts while providing services that we needed and educated, and did their own type of fundraising through selling goods and books and stuff like that. So this whole paragraph right here summarizes a whole decade full of work, family, full of work.
Yeah, man, and we need to figure out how to read more about like this stuff, bro. Because yeah, like we get a lot of like the the speeches and the guns, but don't necessarily hear about the programming behind it, and it's crazy.
And I know we excited people, but it's like, come on, it gotta be by design. Somebody trying to keep that away from us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing on the next page, or the next paragraph on page 219, that according to Ellison, the most important organization promoting Black cooperatives was the Congress of African Peoples, led by poet and playwright Amiri Baraka, a leader of the Black arts movement. Here in Oakland, he also helped start East Side Arts Alliance. A little bit of connection. The CAP later became the Revolutionary Communist League, and then the U.S. League for Revolutionary Struggle, focusing on the struggle for liberation of the Black working class. Ellison notes that the CAP inspired community action agencies to organize consumer cooperatives and low-income credit unions, especially in Brooklyn in the late 1970s. As well as Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Youngstown, Chicago, Houston, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Wow. In addition, the Black Media Inc. cooperative of Black newspapers provided advertising and other services for the more than 100 papers that are members. BMI Cooperative also produces a monthly supplement, the National Black Monitor. Ellison also discusses community investment cooperatives established in several black cities in the 1970s. So, bruh, the CAP, Congress of African Peoples, it sounds like that's one to learn more about, bruh. They're doing some cool shit.
Man, for real. But
Okay.
Baraka. Look into
And then we're seeing the Apex Taxi Cab Cooperative in Milwaukee, Wisconsin began in January of 1973, closed about 18 months later. Although it had a short history, it showed that cab ownership was viable for African Americans. In Washington D.C., there was also had an African American cab company for several years, but this one, Apex Taxi Cab, bought 30 new cabs at the outset. One of the company's advantages was that, unlike the white cab companies, its drivers were willing to take passengers to any part of the city. Here's where solidarity with the community gave Apex a market advantage. After 18 months of relatively successful operation, however, the taxi cooperative could not afford the high insurance premiums and went out of business soon after dropping the exorbitant group insurance, even though some of the taxi drivers paid their own insurance premiums. In this case, a viable concept was thwarted by a hostile insurance provider. That's crazy. Because they're always relying on those actuarial tables and metrics saying, like, this part of the city is more dangerous than this part of the city, so it should have more, like, you should have to pay more for your coverage. But there's a lot of information out there showing how, like, that reasoning is flawed, and it has led to, like, redlining and a bunch of other nasty policies that, just like she said, thwart a lot of efforts that would have been successful otherwise. And so we're seeing that the SSC Employment Agency in Baltimore was a worker-owned cooperative temp agency in the hospitality industry. Baltimore Build, Baltimoreans United in Leadership Development, a community organizing and advocacy org, wanted to support businesses that would hire hard-to-employ local residents, develop their skills and career mobility, and provide good jobs with ownership opportunities. Build established SSC in 1997 at the height of the growth in the hospitality industry around the revitalized Baltimore Harbor, providing temporary workers a fast-growing industry positioning SSC for success. Build hired a local black-owned management company to run the business until the workers were trained to take over. And so after working 160 hours, workers were eligible to become members with an investment of $100 per member. As more and more workers became eligible to be owners, the agency became self-managing and truly worker-owned. As the company grew, it provided annual dividends to each owner in addition to job security within the cooperative. It gave decent wages and opportunities for advancement. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit so we can make it to on time.
That's great.
All right. So we're seeing on page 220 of Collective Courage, we're getting into the external solidarity subsection of Chapter 10, Economic Solidarity in the African American Cooperative Movement. So we're seeing that solidarity can extend past one's own group or community. And this is exactly the social cement that helped Mondragon cooperative members feel an internal sense of culture and ethnic solidarity and loyalty to the group, as well as an external solidarity with other groups and movements in the world. External solidarity is related to principles of intercooperation and concern for community. That's principles 6 and 7 of the international principles. And this sense of cohesion, trust, and teamwork extends outward to others. I'm engaged in similar cooperative projects around the world. There's also Dr. Nimhard is showing and noting that the Federation of Southern Cooperatives has supported tons of cooperative efforts outside of the U.S., particularly in Africa, as well as the Caribbean. We had read earlier in the book that Fannie Lou Hamer, while she was developing and getting support for Freedom Farm, relied heavily on national support while being very focused on for Measure out of Wisconsin, accepting speaking events all over the world to raise money, all over the country, I should say. And in 1969, high school students from northern cities did a series of walks against hunger to raise $120,000 for Freedom Farm, where they were able to spend on farm equipment and down payments for 620 acres of farmland. The singer activist Harry Belafonte, a very groundbreaking person, made several contributions to Freedom Farm. He wrote a fundraising letter saying that it was an excellent example of initiative, racial cooperation, and political militancy worthy of the support of all decent Americans. And so the external solidarity outside of funding can also extend to the way that the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund and its member cooperatives joined local credit unions in response to Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The groups helped their members with disaster relief, revitalizing farmers markets, cooperative businesses, farms, and local economies, providing physical, financial, and spiritual support. Similar aid was provided by the Federation in 2011 after fierce tornadoes in western Alabama. There's just a lot of efforts of also small worker cooperatives helping to revitalize communities. There's instances of that in Brooklyn for immigrant communities, here in Oakland for communities of color through Mandela Grocery. In Pittsburgh, you can see that through the Hill District. And so we're seeing that these projects and many others are not reinventing the wheel of cooperative development among low-income and subaltern populations. They are continuing the legacy, working together, sharing resources, developing workshops, creating jobs, providing goods and services, developing leaders, building economic solidarity to match their social cohesion. Black cooperators are showing the courage and fortitude of their ancestors, past leaders, and their neighbors. This book has shown that there has been a continuous thread of cooperative activity and development in Black communities over the past 2 centuries. And the few attempts at national federations were only somewhat successful, but nonetheless serious and significant, often having inadequate support and outside threats that made it hard for fledgling efforts to become viable. To wrap up today's reading up to 223, we're going to talk a bit about networking and regional economic development. And this means making connections with other cooperatives, sharing information, education and training, buying in bulk, advertising and marketing together. These are all the ways that cooperative networks and necessary alliances can and should be formed. Dr. Nembhard says that of these, she believes that networking is the most important. Cooperatives that have strong networks tend to be more successful than those that do not, she writes at the bottom of the page. And so going up to page 223, we're seeing that the Young Negro Cooperatives League, the Eastern Carolina Council, and the Federation of Southern Cooperatives are national or regional cooperative organizations that we've discussed in previous chapters, with the Federation being the best present-day example of that. There's this... She's also provided us with an image of what a cooperative ecosystem can look like. Starting with a credit union, which is organized by local members and able to provide mortgages to local businesses and residents, as well as helping residents save and provide donations to the community. This credit union can then help worker cooperatives with wages used to buy goods in the store. The wages that this cooperative will eventually receive will help buy goods in the store. You can get a mortgage from a credit union, a bank that is on mission and wants to help them. And the assets or the equity that these people are receiving within the worker cooperative are assets that are anchored in the community and bringing everybody's welfare. In addition to this worker cooperative, there should be a number of cooperative stores who should also be able to rise up due to mortgages from this credit union that was created. And so affordable local produce and supplies can be anchored and supplied in this community thanks to that credit union and the worker cooperative that's happening. This store can be a cooperative as well, a producer cooperative, worker cooperative. But in addition to having these places where we can earn wages and income and receive our resources, she's also suggesting that there needs to be housing cooperatives, which are also able to get mortgages from the credit union, materials from the store, and be more civically involved because their homes are locked in. They know they're not going to have landlords who are going to kick them out for a number of different rules. And that's one of the reasons why the Young Negro Cooperatives League and many of the business were really like focused on getting that credit union up and running. Because if we are able to pool our money and our savings and then lend to our community, like that changes the game. And we become, masters, or let's not use that word. We become able to like fully like dictate what's going on in our community because of that.
I say.
And to wrap this up with one of still like the gold star in terms of cooperatives at the top of page 223, Dr. Nembhard is talking about another approach to networking or building a cooperative commonwealth refers to a system of interlocking cooperatives that supply one another and help to keep local money recirculating among grassroots and local businesses. The Mondragon Cooperative Corporation is usually showcased as an example of interlocking cooperative systems within the greater Basque communities throughout northern Spain. Because it started from a high school and a worker-owned factory in 1956 and became a cooperative holding company that includes hundreds of worker cooperatives and a credit union, that became the 7th largest financial institution in Spain. Mondragon boasts its own social security system, a university, a nationwide consumer retail store, and a galvanized cooperative development in the region. Wow. Bruh. So Mondragon became a regional organization that even extended internationally. It is one of the most successful cooperative systems in the world. The recirculation of money within the network, the use of services, know-how, and surplus from one sector and aiding another sector, and the linkage of all the cooperatives through financial services, social security, and research and development all contribute to Mondragon's success.
Work.
Man. And so finishing up today's reading, Dr. Nembhard says, one development strategy for marginal, disadvantaged, underserved, and oppressed groups is to use economic cooperation and group solidarity to create businesses that will provide meaningful work and income, greater control for workers, and the possibility of wealth creation. The cooperative history documented in this book confirms that cooperatives are an important economic community development tool in Black communities because of their economic and social benefits. They recirculate local resources, support education and training, create jobs and meaningful work, address market failure and marginality, are economically and environmentally sustainable. They develop leadership capacity and promote civic participation. Cooperatives are a mechanism to provide most of the elements that we look for in economic development: efficient resource allocation, and individual and community prosperity. So the table on the next page that we'll be starting off tomorrow with provides a summary of some of the ways in which cooperative ownership addresses challenges in rural and urban development. The examples in this book have illustrated how a cooperative, or how a housing cooperative, for example, provides affordable, dignified housing, or a credit union provides affordable financial services, especially in areas abandoned by traditional banks or preyed upon by subprime payday lenders. Yeah, definitely some nuggets in these pages. I'm grateful to learn about John Lewis and the early history that he had. That was special.
Man. And yeah, meeting the elder this week and then learning more about the Black Panthers, man, the extensive work that we did to build. It's tremendous, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So tomorrow, we're going to be jumping in and learning some more, and really excited to go through this table and see like, okay, for these challenges, like, what are the co-ops we can use? And with 12 noon, 3 Eastern, for another micro chunk of collective courage. This is our last week. Appreciate y'all for tapping in, watching the recordings. I know business is picking up for lots of folks, so man, just so much love and joy for y'all. Sending out lots of gratitude as well.